feel a sense of like there was a dart, you know what I mean? Like it just was not good. I feel like it just seemed like things escalated once I told my manager that I was with child or I was expecting. It was just like not good. Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, per the title, it's going to be about how I left corporate America due to pregnancy. It was a company considered in the Fortune 100 places to work. However, my experience was not obviously a good one when I became pregnant for the second time while I was working there. So essentially, let's get right into it. And I'll talk about kind of like what the point is for this video, right? So the first thing is that I was pregnant for the second time. Now, this is during 2020. So let me go back and talk about, let's see, this part. This part is 2021 has just started. And by February, my littlest one at the time had COVID-19, okay? And it was already kind of a tough 2020 as far as that December, because we went through surgery and everything like that. So by January, I think the whole house really had COVID, but we just didn't know that it was, or we just didn't put the title on it, whichever. But then there was a point where he was not feeling well, and he was really making some little noises that I thought something has to be wrong. So, but he was better at this point. Everybody was healed and better. My husband takes him to the urgent care, like a pediatric urgent care, and they say, do you want us to test him for COVID? It was like, yes, no problem. Then in the end, they found like nothing is really wrong. Like they check his ears. He didn't have any like ear infection, which is what I was thinking that he had. So what it was actually was constipation, which later on was determined. We were able to take care of that, but it came back that he had COVID-19. I mean, I later learned that it can remain in your blood or in your body, however you want to say it, even after you technically are not sick and don't really have it anymore. So in conclusion, we were like shut in. So that was kind of wild. But on a side note, it was a blessing in disguise because that's how I was able to get my toddler potty trained. Yeah, it was quite interesting. But the point is that I left corporate America, or at least that job, because it started to get bad, right? Because now it's like I have to take off because of COVID, of a small child, and they can't care for themselves, right? And so I can't work at that point. So I took off work to care for him. But then, so that was like February. And then, I'm not sure if I took off of work again, but I think so. I think it was just an interesting year. By June, between June and July, I ended up having to go to the hospital again with my little one and go through another process again and a procedure. And I want to say that I had to take off. I can't remember. I'm sure I had to probably take off some days. And then I found out that I was also pregnant. And so that would be the second time I'm pregnant at the job. So the first time I was on site, there were ironically two other coworkers who were also pregnant. We all were pregnant at the same time. And ironically, like no one knew, like none of us knew, I think, coming in. And so that whole thing was just interesting. And then even one of my male coworkers, his wife was also having a baby, or pregnant to have a baby. And yeah, so in conclusion, I ended up in a situation where I'm working from home. Of course, it's 2021 at this point, but there was one particular day I was like forgetful, where I ended up getting to work a bit late, or logging in, if you will. But I could just feel a sense of like there was a dart, you know what I mean? Like it just was not good. I feel like it just seemed like things escalated once I told my manager that I was with child or I was expecting. It was just like not, I knew that it was like probably her boss that was, doing certain things, and then, getting emails that were like essentially very specific instructions for me if I needed to call out, which was not like the protocol for any other coworker. And so I already knew that, things had kind of progressed, but I was just really trying to push through. And it just got really kind of bad for my mental health, like in ways I can't even begin to explain, especially when you're pregnant and there's already hormones and then you have to deal with other things. It was extreme. And yeah, I just knew I had to take action, and we got to a place where I was just like, yeah, by this. Okay, so prior to that, it was like, okay, I sent a note about the my physician requiring that I had like a 15-minute break, two 15 minutes breaks, I want to say, within that 8 hours. And they schedule, so I work technically in a non-technical role, as like an analyst, like application support, right? And so we never had an hour break. We only had 30 minutes, then two 15 minutes, and that's what made an hour. But the physician was asking that I had two 15-minute breaks, just because of medical reasons. And I let them know, and I was basically told that they could not accommodate that. Two 15 minutes in 8 hours. So in conclusion, by that December, I resigned. So I think I'm like 7 minutes in now, 30 minutes in. I'm probably gonna have to, I'm sure, do some editing here. But the point is that, I mean, looking back, is the thought of like what could have been done differently. But I know that God has been with me and will continue to be with me. I think that it's kind of like, my advice would be, if you're in a situation like that, it's kind of like getting your ducks in a row. I mean, you can't really help certain things like the hormonal, like you forgot something, or certain other medical issues, be it like a bed rest or other things. You may not really have much control over that. However, being able to have things in place sooner than later, especially when you work for these types of really large companies, that you are putting yourself in a situation where you reach out to your Sedwick, which is what I had, but it's basically like a department that deals with like maternity leave and different absences, right? It's not really like a manager. You have to put in tickets, and it's that kind of environment. But ultimately, like, getting ahead of all of that, planning, saving. Sometimes you don't know what it's going to be like when you're pregnant, but you just have to plan. That's the best thing you can do. Just plan for the unknown, because I know that physically I couldn't really go down the path, and we know that everybody is different. Some people can, be at work until the very last day, the 40th, okay, week. And that's not everybody's, situation. So I think that you have to be really intentional about planning for these kind of things if you're going down that path. Now, again, I know that's not everybody's story, but that was my story. So if you would like to see any more videos, that is really going to be advice videos. In this video, I talk more about like corporate America and like essentially motherhood. And I'll talk about those kind of videos, as well as some marriage or relationship videos as well. And that's all for now. Y'all have a good one. Bye.